welcome to Saturday Morning Retro, Episode 5. Before we start the show, we want to thank all of our wonderful fans who have supported us, and if you want to show support for the Rated G Network, you can find us on Patreon at patreon.com/RatedG4Gamers. You can also find us on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Rated G for Gamers. And finally, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify. We appreciate all the love. So this is the Saturday Morning Retro Podcast, a podcast where we dive into our backlog and talk all things retro. I'm your host, Dave Bertino, and this is my co-host, Dan, the podcaster formerly known as Classic Robinson.
What's going on, man?
Feeling good, Dan. It's that time of the year again. The best
Feeling
time
good?
of the year.
Is that pumpkin spice time?
It is pumpkin spice time. That's right. It's fall. Best holiday ever. Halloween is coming up soon. Feeling good.
And Thanksgiving is in the fall. Thanksgiving is in the fall, too.
Thanksgiving's also in the fall. It's a great holiday. You know, if you can go home and see the parents in the time of the zombie apocalypse, make that happen. Because your mom makes a good turkey.
You know why this is the best time? Yeah, well, first of all, you know why this is a good episode? You know why this is a great episode? Not a good episode, it's a great episode. You know why I'm feeling good? I'm feeling nice?
Tell me why,
it's
Dan.
Saturday morning. I have my banana nut pancakes ready.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna watch some Saturday morning cartoons like Sewer Sharks, cartoons like Cowboy Bebop, or no, the Cowboys of Moo Mesa, right? And you watch a pup named Scooby Doo. Man, I'm old. I am old. These are all the '90s Saturday morning cartoons.
I'm with you on the cartoons, but why did you reference like the Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa and Sewer Sharks?
Okay, it wasn't the Wild.
Like,
I forgot what the exact name was, but it was like the Cowboys of Moo Mesa.
It was the Cowboys of Moo Mesa. Okay. And it was terrible.
It was awesome. What are you talking about?
Yeah, I already know that you're wrong because you're getting into that high pitched voice.
I'm not wrong.
I know when you're like really trying to defend it.
It was a great cartoon. I love the Cowboys of Moo Mesa. I wish I had the action figures.
Come on now. Come on
you know
now.
What?
Next thing you're gonna tell me is
I can go back and buy those action figures now that I'm a adult.
Yeah, for like 20 cents on the dollar.
I think they cost a little bit more than 20 cents right now.
Well, next you're gonna tell me Captain Planet was a quality cartoon.
Captain Planet was awesome.
Oh, see, Captain Planet was trash.
Literal
trash in a show about like eco-terrorism, right?
Get out of here. Listen, I got Captain Planet action figures for Christmas one year, and that was like the best Christmas ever.
Wow.
The only ring that sucked was heart, okay? Earth.
Because it's not an element.
Water, heart.
Yeah. And heart.
It's awesome. It was a
fucking
awesome
Mati.
show.
Get out of here. Oh,
it was an awesome show. I love that.
Wow.
You know what? You know why you don't think it's awesome is because you were in like college at that point. I was still in grade school.
You want to talk about good?
You don't think you were too old.
You want to talk about good '90s cartoons? Batman the Animated Series. All right, that is the cream.
Yeah,
but
that didn't come in on Saturday though. That wasn't a Saturday. That was something that came on after school at like 2:30 at 3 o'clock.
Okay, well, Saturday. You want to talk about Saturday morning in the '90s? X-Men. All right, I'll get X-Men. X-Men and
Spider-Man, yeah. Those are the cream of those are the creme of the creme.
That's what I'm saying, right? Cowboys of Moo Mesa, that was scraping the bottom of the barrel.
No, Cowboys of Moo Mesa was great. Get out of here. Get out of here,
right.
Old man. You're an old man. All right. You used to watch the Flintstones and Jetsons on Saturday.
Yeah, so did everybody else because they played reruns.
No, I'm talking about when they first came out. That's what.
Oh yeah, right. Oh my god.
That's what. You used to watch the original Batman series.
Uh-huh.
So, anyway, we digress. We're going to have an awesome show for you this month. Coming up, we're going to talk me playing the original Legend of Zelda for the first time. And Dave is going to give me his opinion on the original Kid Icarus. But before we get into any of that, let's begin with this month in gaming history. And you know what? We have a good one. We have a good one this month. It's September. And this is the first September in Saturday Morning Retro's history, right? This is a historic show. There'll never be another Saturday Morning Retro podcast, episode 5, ever, right? This is historic history. Just like
yeah, true.
Just like this moment in history, in September of 1889. I'm taking it back to the 1800s.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Nintendo was founded. They didn't make video games because,
Well, they didn't have video games yet.
Then.
It barely had electricity.
But Nintendo, the company, was formed, and they were formed, and they were a playing card company, Hanafuna cards, right? Hanafuna cards. Now I have no idea what these cards are. I've never played this game, but you know what? Thank God for Hanafuna cards, because we wouldn't have Nintendo if it wasn't for them.
Well, I mean, they made a lot of money off them. I think they still actually may produce Hanafuda cards in some fashion over in Japan. It's essentially their version of Gin Rummy, I think. You basically need to make like...
I've never played Gin Rummy. What is Gin? You have to explain this to me. What is Gin Rummy?
Gin Rummy is very easy. You either need to make sets. So you play with a 52 card deck, right? So you make a set of like sixes, right? So you get all the sixes, if you can. Or you make a run, which is like 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever, and like that's it. And you get points based off that. Hanafuda is kind of like that, except they use like picture cards, and they're like super tiny. They're like that big. All right, they're little tiny rectangular things with like Japanese art on there, and you got to match them up. So it's more complex than Gin Rummy, but it's essentially the same concept. It's super fun too. It's not that hard to play, but yeah. So that's how they got their start, and they were doing that for the first 60 years of their company, I think.
Well, you know what they should do.
Mm-hmm.
First party game here, Nintendo. I'm giving you this one for free. Why don't you make a card video game,
a Hanafuda game,
and put it on Switch Online.
They actually have the Hanafuda game in the clubhouse. 51-1 or 52-1. It has the Hanafuda game on there.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah. It's got all the classics. It's a very good compilation.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, listen. If it wasn't for these playing cards, we wouldn't have Nintendo. So yeah. I am very grateful for these cards.
So they're
it's crazy to think that they've been around since 1889,
right.
September of 1889.
They had their 100th year anniversary the year that Super Mario Brothers 3 came out in Japan. That's insane. Wow. That's it. That was their 100-year anniversary, right? Like, that's insane. Like, Microsoft is barely hitting 50, right? And Nintendo's like, nah.
131 years old.
131 years old.
131 years old right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, Dave, this is a retro show. This is when we get to talk about a collection. Because, I just hit... Well, I hit 3,500 games like a month ago. So right now I'm officially at 3,660.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I'm feeling pretty good. I don't have a lot of room. I'm going to have to do a massive reorganizing.
You've never had a lot of room, but you keep making room. That's the weird thing.
Well, we had somebody ask us on Instagram, how do we make room for our collection? And they were looking for some advice, and I thought this would be a perfect show to talk about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, you have to be sort of creative in how you double and triple stack, right? Like, it's how you do it that makes it look fun or look cool. And I usually if I have to double stack, I'll usually won't just double stack it where you have all the games lined up horizontally or vertically in the back, and then put the other games horizontally, on top of that. Because you're going to cover everything that's in the back. So I usually do it where I put the games sort of horizontally double stacked just on one side, and then on the other side I have maybe action figures or inbox amiibos that I have. So it sort of looks cool, and then I double stack the shelf under it, right? Where I double stack that horizontally, and I do the same thing. Or if I double stack it horizontally under it, the next shelf under it, I'll do it on the left hand side, so it's not like all lined up on a. Well, I do it on the right hand side, so it's not all lined up on the left hand side, just so it can look interesting.
Nice.
The best advice I would give is what helps me really, because every time I say I don't have any room, when I do a massive reorganization, I do it like maybe 2 times a year. I do it like the beginning of the year or the end. I do it
You do
either
a
at the
spring
beginning
and
of the
fall
year
cleaning.
or yeah, the beginning of the year, end of the year, beginning of the year, and then during the summer, I take all the games off the shelves. It gives me a chance to do a mass cleaning so I can make sure everything is nice and clean. And I'm wiping down all the systems and most of the games. And you get to discover games you forgot you had, right? That's another way of discovering games that you have in your collection. And then
that happens all the time. I buy games. I go, oh,
yeah,
I already had this one.
Well, and then all of a sudden I say, you know what? I don't want to put the Switch games on this shelf anymore because I now have a lot of Switch games. They need a bigger shelf, so I'm going to switch it. And because I have a smaller Master System collection than the Switch, I'm going to put the Master System games on that shelf, the smallest shelf. Now, where I originally had the Switch games, and I'll put the Switch games on the bigger shelf. And now I have more room. Now I can have, I can put 40 more Switch games all of a sudden, right? And when you do a massive reorganization, when you reorganize where you put your games now, it sort of opens up spaces and opportunity and availability you didn't even know you had.
Yeah, nice.
And,
nice.
So that's my advice. That would be my advice.
Yeah.
Get creative on how you double stack. Don't just double stack it plainly. Double stack it all on the left-hand side or right-hand side. Maybe switch it up, do a left-hand side on this shelf and on the shelf under it, do it on the right-hand side. So it sort of looks different, right? And then do a massive overhaul, at least minimum once a year, but I would try to do it twice a year. And that's how you create more room, especially if you buy video games regularly. So that would be my advice.
I guess 2 things I can say about it is, 1, go vertical with the video games. Don't stack them spine up, because that looks better, but you don't get as much room, right? If you go vertical with it, you can get more within that space almost across the board, unless you have like very narrow height. The other thing is to go vertical, right? Sure, you can get like a shelf in there. I like the IKEA Billy bookcase. I think you're a fan of the Sears bookcases. Is that right?
I am. Well, because they're cheap too.
Right. I mean, like the Billy bookcases, I think will run you $60 to $100 depending on the configuration for a standard bookcase. You can get some like pretty wild ones, but think about the space above that, right? Like in my place, there's a lot of unclaimed wall space, and I'm thinking about putting like shelves above the other shelves and building a thing up on the wall, right? And you don't have to go that crazy, but use like the top of the shelves. Maybe you can get extensions and risers on there to like give yourself a little bit more room. Those are like my 2 things. Like, plus everything got, like you said, about smartly reorganizing everything and taking inventory like once or twice a year, I think is pretty good, because you may find, especially in your case, and like in my case too, is that you find like, oh, this is a much better configuration. I can do it this way, and it makes all the difference, right? I got so much more room now. So.
I always find room when I do it that way, though. That's the fun part. Like, that's the fun part of collecting, right? Like, the fun part to me is 2 things: taking it down and putting it back.
Right? And you would think that's the worst thing, reorganizing, cleaning.
No. The worst thing is once all the games are taken down and they're like in this big giant pile, wherever you put it at, and then you look at everything you have to clean. That's the worst part.
Well,
that's the worst part.
Yeah.
And starting to put it back is still bad too, because
I like that. God, I like that. I like the whole process. Forever. I like the whole process.
But once I get to start, once I once I get the first shelf done, that's when it starts to get fun, because I have sort of a plan of attack. But Dave, talking about collecting, you get any good pickups this month?
I'm most assuredly did, Dan. It's the end or the beginning of the end of the garage sale season, right? The weather is kind of getting a little bit cold.
It never ends, Dave. It never ends.
It does, though. It does.
No, it does.
How many garage sales have you been to in December?
Like one.
like one. Yeah. And you had to even think, was this really a garage sale or was it just going into someone's garage
really
and looking for
garage
video games?
Saying garage sale is just like it's just synonymous with a sale. It's just somebody outside their building can have a like quote unquote garage sale.
That's no. If you're meeting somebody outside to trade games, that's not a garage sale. A garage sale is 90% of stuff that they don't want anymore, and 90% of the stuff that you don't even want to look at, and the 10% stuff that you want to sit there and like run through.
Yeah, and they don't have a garage because they live in an apartment building, and outside their apartment building, whatever.
Well, that's perfectly fine. They got to have stuff out.
Garage sale.
They got to have stuff out on tables, and they have to be sitting out in a folding chair. That is a garage sale. All right.
Yeah, I've been to one in December. I had my I had my North Face on, looking at games.
Yeah, no, they just don't do them anymore, right? Like I think like you can get some in October, and then that's like it, and then they're done. So I managed to find a couple people who were having legit garage sales. They were out all day, and some highlights from that. I picked up a lot of PS2 games. I know we talked about it on the regular Rated G show a little bit about the journey. But now I can talk about some of the games, right? So Maximo and the Army of Zin, right? That was one of the two Ghost and Goblin games, or Ghouls and Ghosts, depending, for the PS2. So I now have both of those. I got the original SSX. Very happy about that. Front Mission 4 for the PS2. Arcana Heart. It's a very kind of low-key hidden gem fighter for the PlayStation 2. Shakedown Hawaii for the Wii and Wii U. Those obviously didn't come from a garage sale. They were from V-Blank Games, so I got those. And then finally, I got one of the only RPGs and one of the exclusives to Xbox 360, Blue Dragon, made by Hironobu Sakaguchi, creator of the Final Fantasy series. It also had... it had some other people in there, too. It had, I forget the composer. It may be Nobuo Uematsu, who also was part of Final Fantasy, and Akira Toriyama of Dragon Ball Z fame. He did the artwork and the characters. So, super cool. Those are just a cross-section of the games that I picked up. So, how about you?
So, I had a massive pickups, and sort of like a semi-GameStop story, which I'll leave it for the end. But I'm going to try to sort of get through some of these. I got Spider-Man Friend and Foe. Spider-Man game that I didn't even know. They made a lot of Spider-Man games.
I didn't know this existed either.
Spider-Man. Yeah, well, it came out on all the platforms, but I got the PSP version.
Really?
Yeah, I got the PSP version, which is, you know how the portable version is usually different than the console versions?
It's made for...
Yeah, this doesn't seem to be too different. I mean, the PSP technically was sort of marketed as, console, on the go, kind of, before the Switch.
Right.
Their games, PSP games were sort of like a lesser quality, like a PS2 in your hand, a little bit more powerful than the PS2 in your hand, at least how it was promoted back in the day. So Spider-Man Friend and Foe for the PSP, not that much different from the console versions. I got Quest 64 for the N64.
Ooh, boy.
Never played this game before.
Speaking about weird RPGs for systems, you think the 360 doesn't have RPGs? Ooh.
The 64, I know that. It's
got Quest 64, Ogre Battle, and Paper Mario, right? That's about it.
Yeah, off the top of my head, that's the only things I can think of too. Yeah.
Right.
No.
Quest 64.
I picked up Dodgeball for an NES. It's on Nintendo Online, so I had to get the original cart, right?
Classic.
Speaking of Spider-Man, I got Spider-Man Battle for New York for the Game Boy Advance. Nice, side scroller.
Was this tied into the movies at all, or no?
No, this wasn't tied into the movies. But it's a good side scrolling, Spider-Man game. It's been on my radar for a while, so I definitely picked that up. Elevator Action for the NES, and Double Dribble for the NES, and Pro Wrestling for the NES.
Oh my God, those are good.
And Alpha Mission for the NES, and Arkanoid, a game that I do remember playing as a kid for the NES. I wanted to pick that up. The Hunt for the Red October. I remember watching the movie with my mom.
Oh my God.
can't believe they made a game.
Yes, I was just gonna say that. Well,
They made it for the NES and the SNES. Funny enough,
my
I
God.
heard the NES version was better, even though the game itself, in general, is just a bad game.
Maybe it's a submarine hunt game. I guess I don't think it would be too appealing to kids or adults.
I like the movie. Sean Connery is the man. I'm sorry. He's
sure.
I loved him.
Sure.
Big James Bond fan, so I really love Sean Connery.
Mm-hmm.
I got C2 Judgment Clay, which was sort of like the Clay Fighters, like the sequel to Clay Fighters.
Yep. Because
which
they
is
were
a
all
weird
about
name.
those puns.
They call it. It's actually called C2 Judgment Clay. It's not called Clay Fighters 2.
Sure,
which is stupid.
Because the Terminator was so hot at that time, and they're like, we need to capitalize on this.
That was stupid. I got that for the SNES. I got Lagoon for the SNES.
Nice. Speaking about good RPGs,
I got Chuck Rock for the SNES. Mind you, I have Chuck Rock for the Sega Dreamcast. That was like one of the first 3 games I got for the not the Dreamcast. Sorry,
Saturn?
Sega CD.
Sega CD. Okay.
No, Sega CD. Sega CD.
Okay.
And I love that game because that was like one of the 3 games I had for the Sega CD, so I had to love it. I had no other choice. I had Sewage Sharks.
You made it
Chuck
work.
Rock.
You made it work.
Yeah, I made it work. I can't think of the third game I had for the. I didn't have that many Sega CD games growing up.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I made a GameStop trip. I made 2 GameStop trips because I went to GameStop just to check on the pre-orders for the Xbox, and they only had 5. I didn't go to actually pre-order. I went later in the day. I was just curious to see how many they had.
Yeah.
And they only had 5. So, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, both pre-orders suck. So it's just, they both have that in common. This gen pre-orders
the pre-order stock and process suck is what you're saying.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Just to clarify.
But since I was at GameStop, I picked up Family Guy back to the Multiverse for the 360. Didn't even know they had a Family Guy video game.
They have multiple.
I think that's like the only film.
No,
really?
there's 2 of them, I think, because there's one on PlayStation 2, which is a different game, I think.
Oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
I had I picked up Trauma Center: New Blood for the Wii.
Nice.
Like one of like the 3 Trauma Center games that came out for the Wii. If you want to learn how to be a surgeon,
they're actually pretty fun. They use the motion control, but
I didn't. The original came out on the 3DS. Right? No, to the DS. Sorry, I think it was the DS.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't think it was. I didn't like the original one that came out on the DS. The Wii version is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Because of the gimmick of using the Wii.
It's kind of like neat to
re-stick.
You suture people up by wiggling the stick back and forth. You got to make like the.
You want to talk about nostalgia and being old?
Mm-hmm.
What was the thing what was the board game that we had where we had to do surgery?
Operation.
Operation, yeah.
Oh my God,
I remember that.
Water on the knee operation.
The guy's nose always turned red when I operated on him. So
I know, because there was like no room.
I couldn't be a doctor.
How do you pull the funny bone out?
I couldn't be a doctor. I couldn't be a doctor. I was like, all right, I'm gonna be a lawyer instead.
Right.
Because the guy's nose always turns red.
Oh.
But it's been widely known that GameStop is not doing too hot, and GameStop recently, over the summer, said that they were going to be closing a crap ton of stores, and that affects us in New York. They're going to close a handful of stores in New York, and I actually made it to a GameStop last weekend. Didn't know the store was closing. I just came. I wanted to go in to see if they, how many pre-orders they had. I was just curious, and apparently I went in and it was like, oh yeah, everything's off the shelves. Matter of fact, you could buy the shelves for $15. Because it's gone out of business.
Yeah.
So every game that I'm about to say cost me 30 cents.
Hey.
Okay, not $30, not $3, 30 cents.
Uh-huh.
I accidentally, with the exception of this game, I accidentally picked up Judgment for the PlayStation 4, which me and you are going to do a nice little trade because I already have this game.
That's right.
But still, it was like 80% off. It's still brand new, $60, and I only paid $20. So that's still a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
I picked up Borderlands 2 for the Xbox 360.
Wow, you didn't have that
Medal
one,
of Honor. I didn't have. Well, I had it for the Vita. I didn't have it for the consoles.
Oh, they made a Vita version too?
I had it on the go.
All right.
Yeah.
Huh.
I got Medal of Honor Vanguard for the Wii, Medal of Honor Heroes 2 for the Wii, and 007 Quantum of Solace I got it not for the Wii. I don't know why it says the Wii here. I got it for the Xbox 360.
Okay. Not bad.
So,
Not bad.
and I also picked up Madden 2016, which was the last Madden game that had that was the last Madden game that had Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, I know.
With the
well, no, that's not
49ers.
that's not true.
Well,
he's
until
now in 2020.
Until now.
He's now in 2020.
Until now. And then I picked up NBA 2K17 that had Legendary Kobe Bryant edition, which I already had. I didn't know it. I already had it, but I already had it for the PS4, so now I have it for the Xbox One.
Oh, there you go. Different game.
But I gotta say,
different system.
This GameStop going out of business, I've never seen so many Maddens in my life.
It's all Madden.
So many Maddens in 2K. they must have had hundreds of Madden games.
If you stare deep enough into
row of Madden games.
Yeah, if you stare deep enough into their pre-order section, it's just all Madden. If I knew
the games with 30 cents, I would have brought every Madden known to man.
Oh my god! You just like give them out as Christmas gifts.
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, I got you Madden.
Happy birthday, man.
I got you Madden.
Happy birthday, man.
Yeah.
They were cheap. They had Madden cheaper in this GameStop that we got out of business than they do at Goodwill. At Goodwill, they still try to squeeze $3 out of you.
Oh, I hate that. How do they not know that this game is never going to sell at anything more than like $2? If
Goodwill, not even $2. If Goodwill wanted to move units, 50 cents, man. Sports games
for all the sports games, of course, and then put the other games.
I would
up
buy
at
it
like
for 50 cents.
Put the other games up at a decent price, but they don't check anything, like unless it's like, oh, here's a Nintendo system. All right, fine.
I don't want them to check anything, just in case they get Little Samson. I don't want them to.
Yeah.
I want to pay $5 for Little Samson, no doubt. I will buy every sports game you have too.
It's like the time I went to it's like the time I went to that little Goodwill place, or not. It's not a Goodwill place, but a little thrift shop near me. And this guy had all this stuff in these little like plastic bins up top. I'm like, pull it all down. Let's see what you got. And he wouldn't budge on anything. He was like, he kept pointing to the price on, and he goes, it's $5 for this and $4 for this. And he was just going on like the age. I said, okay, you're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to take Golden Axe the Duel, which goes for $70 online, and I will give you the $5 that you want for it. And I did. And I bought a NES Advantage, and I bought WrestleMania 2000, and I said, we're good here. So you're right. Sometimes you can get a good deal like that. But
so Dave, it's Triple R time, where we go in and we take a game from the past and we say, what do we want? What do we want the developer or publisher to do with it now? Do we want them to do a remaster, remake, or recycle the idea? Okay, so I'm gonna go first, and mine's is a little weird because I don't know. I'm gonna go recycle on my pick, and I don't really know if I'm recycling which game I'm recycling. I don't know if I'm recycling Super Mario Sunshine or Yoshi's Island. Okay, because this is what I'm gonna tell you what I want.
Okay,
I'm gonna tell you what I want. I'm gonna tell you what I want. All right. So I've been, sort of kind of playing Super Mario Sunshine. Originally came out for the GameCube. Now we have the Super Mario 3D All Stars Collection on the Switch. I've been playing it on the Switch. Haven't played it before. It's my first time playing it. May want to talk about it on a future Saturday morning retro show, so I'm not gonna get into that actual game. But fun fact, the island that Mario's on vacation on, right? They were originally thinking about making this a Yoshi game. And having Yoshi in this game, right? Like having Yoshi in this game as the main protagonist.
Oh, and not a Mario game saving the princess.
Yes, and not a Mario game. So I want that original idea. I think that would work. I think that would be awesome. I want Yoshi with the flood pack on his back in this game. I want to recycle either Yoshi's Island game or Super Mario Sunshine. I don't want a sequel. I guess maybe they would call it a sequel because they made a sequel to Super Mario World, the greatest game of all time, as a side note.
Dan's greatest game of all time.
And they made it a Yoshi game. They made it a Yoshi game.
Oh, they did. Yeah. No, Mario was the Yoshi of that game pretty much.
So I don't care what you call this game. I don't know what you're gonna call it, and I don't care what you call it. You call it, Super Mario Sunshine 2 Yoshi's Vacation or whatever. I don't care.
There you go.
The same
there you go. I think we got the name down.
But I want Yoshi in this game, and think about it. Think about it, right? If you've played Super Mario Sunshine, you have the FLUDD, so you get the sort of jetpack for a limited amount of time, and you get the spray water and stuff. That's your main thing that you're doing. You're not picking up items or enemies or anything on their head. You get to still jump on them, but you're not picking up any items or enemies. You're spraying water, so you can spray water. And if you want to get into hard platforming, you can use Yoshi's tongue to swing around, right? So there's so many different things you can do with having Yoshi instead of Mario, and that's what I want.
Okay,
that's my triple R.
Interesting concept. Interesting concept. You got to call Nintendo up and say, "Hey, look, hey, Mr. Nintendo, Mr. Arakawa, is he there? Is he there still? I don't think he is. Furukawa, no. Is that the new guy?
Yes,
Furukawa.
Yes. Mr. Furukawa.
Arakawa was back in the 80s. Sorry, I was watching that. Console Wars documentary. It got me all twisted.
Oh, how was that, by the way? As a side note, I haven't seen it.
It's actually very good. I just finished the book, and somebody hit me to the fact that they put it out. It's on CBS, which is weird.
CBS All Access.
It is on CBS All Access. Yeah. So
it's got a good review so far.
Yeah. I think I'll talk about it a little further on the next Rated G show. But for this segment, Dan, I have an equally good pick. All right. There was a game.
Okay.
Well, there is a game. It's you can still play it for the Commodore 64. Yes, I'm taking it way back.
Oh my God, you're taking it back.
Called Archon. And this was a little game made by Electronic Arts.
Literally.
Yes, that Electronic Arts. They made 3 of them actually. And it is battle chess. It's not the game battle chess. It is chess with combat. So you got a light side, you got a dark side, and each little unit does something different, right? And I want them to remake this soup to nuts, right? I want 3D graphics, right? I want different armies that you can choose from, right? Because there's the light side has different units, and the dark side has different units, so they're not they balance each other out, but they're different, right? So you may have a Banshee, but I may have a Salamander, right? And they're equal but different. They have different abilities. And you have the wizard, right? The wizard dude can cast spells, so he can clone a unit or teleport around the map or do all this stuff. And it's crazy. It's such an ingenious concept, and they could do so much with it now. And they made some changes in the sequels where there's different types of terrain. So depending on which character you have on which terrain gives them benefits, and that was kind of neat. Never got to play the third one, but I would like and I say simple remake, but just give me 3D visuals, right? Get a couple other abilities for every unit.
You want to change the mechanics a little bit. You want 2020 visuals. You want to 1080i, right?
Yeah, well, 1080p. Yeah,
minimum.
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
Minimum 1080i, 1080i minimum.
Yeah, I mean, I want it to look modern, right? And maybe throw in a couple different map types and more than light side, dark side. Give me 3 or 4 different armies that are equal but different, right? And throw it out there. And
how well would that sell though? Is anybody really going to put the money and effort into that? How well will that game sell in 2020?
I think so because it's got a little bit of board game strategy, right? It's got that kind of chess element because you want to put people in the right spots to gain advantage, right? There's little power spots which give you more energy, which you can cast more spells with. And then there's straight up battle, right? You want to go head to head. It's not a straight up action game, but I think there's a market for it, especially now, You could get their B team to work on it. Obviously it doesn't need to be a AAA title. But I like especially now.
It sounds like a good. It sounds like a good Switch or mobile game. That's not something I would want to play on my Series X or PS5, but definitely I would play it on Switch or mobile.
Interesting. You mentioned mobile because they did make a mobile version for Android, like back in 2010 or 11, I think. I don't think it's in the store anymore. I don't think they updated it, but they did have a version of Archon, and they made one for DOS in '94. Could never get it to run properly. But so they have made some updates. I don't know if EA still owns the license. I don't think they do. But yeah, man, if you like Kickstart it, I think it would. I think it would make it. I think
you should spearhead this. You should kickstart this.
I should spearhead this. I don't own the license, Dan.
Yeah.
I don't own the license.
Well, you don't have to call it that. Just do it something. Call it something else.
No. Well, they have a game like that called The Unholy War for PlayStation 1. It's essentially Archon, but a little bit different. It was okay.
All right, so you want a full remake of that?
I want a full soup to nuts remake.
Wait. Let me ask you a question. Is this on the C64 Mini by any chance? Is this game on there? Because I just bought that.
It may actually be.
It should. I mean, the game is that simple enough. It should be on there, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, it is still owned by EA, so licensing rights may be a little bit tough. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not on there because it's like EA, I think, still owns it, or somebody owns the rights and they couldn't get the rights to it.
Oh, okay. All right, no problem. So why don't we take a break, and we come back, we'll do a deep dive in our backlog. Dave will talk about playing Kid Icarus, and I'm going to give you my opinion on playing the original Legend of Zelda in 2020, and it may be controversial. Stay tuned. And we're back. All right. Let's dig deep into our archives. Let's just jump into it. I never played the original Legend of Zelda back in the day. Okay? I never did.
Surprising.
I have zero nostalgia.
Surprising.
Zero nostalgia for Zelda. Okay? So
for the original game.
For the original Zelda, yes. Mm-hmm. For the original Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
So this is my first time playing Zelda. So let's just get into a little bit of history of Zelda. Released in North America August 22nd, 1987. The original Zelda game was a Famicom Disk System launch game, right? It came out the summer of '86 in Japan. This was the first North American game that came out with a battery backup, right?
That's right.
Am I saying that correct?
Right. Yeah. A little battery backup.
So they had to wait a year for the technology to work on the NES, on the American NES. So developer, Nintendo Entertainment Analysis and Development, A&D department back in the day. Obviously Nintendo published this. They released on the Famicom Disk System and the NES. It's an action adventure RPG. Just so you know, I played this on Switch Online service because I did not feel like breaking out my original NES to play.
You didn't want to go blow on the pins and clean it up a little bit before you got into the game?
You should never blow. As we learned 30 years later, you should never blow on the pins. Use a Q-tip with alcohol on one side and then wipe it down dry with the other side. Which is
funny because on the back of the cartridge it says specifically do not use alcohol to clean the pins, but that's the thing you want to do. Oh.
So I did play it. I didn't play it on the original hardware. Just as a little sort of background, I mean, this was the biggest release since the original Super Mario game. Video games, this proved that video games were back. I mean, even with the success of Super Mario and NES, the original NES, when it first came out, people were still skeptical about video games, right? Like 87, I think, was the year that people really knew that video games were back and maybe here to stay because they haven't looked back since.
Well, sure. I mean, 87, 86 a little bit, but 87 really you started seeing like third-party publishers, at least in America, like, putting out titles that was more than just the Nintendo black box games. All right. And Zelda, I think you told me before before we started that Zelda was one of the first, if not the first game to not come in the iconic Nintendo black box.
No, it wasn't the first, but it was one of the 3 games that came out in 87.
Mm-hmm.
Legend of Zelda, Kid Icarus, and I can't think, was it Castlevania? No, it wasn't Castlevania. Oh, could have been Rad Racer.
Maybe. Yeah, or
no,
Rad
Metroid.
Racer, yeah.
There we go. It was Metroid, Kid Icarus, and Legend of Zelda that came out that year that were different boxes. They weren't the original black boxes that came out, before. So that off the back showed you that this was a different type of game. And this was the first time the cartridge wasn't gray. It was gold.
Right.
So it told you that this game was special.
One of the only non-gray carts to come out on Nintendo. One of the other ones being Zelda 2, the sequel.
Yeah. So this game was special, right? Because up to this point, like RPGs in Japanese RPGs were sort of different. RPGs weren't like action RPGs. They were like computer, turn-based RPGs. Correct? If I'm not. So
yeah,
Zelda was definitely special.
They had some dungeon crawlers. They had this kind of style. I mean, this blazed a trail, right? There was a handful of games that were kind of like this before, but they weren't near what Zelda was. I mean, Zelda really kind of blew the door open.
So Miyamoto really wanted this game to express like his desire, like as a kid, to like explore, right? So this is, like he wanted to make a sort of an exploration game.
Mm-hmm.
I think this game is just like Mario, sort of like in simple gameplay, and it tells you in the first 5 minutes, what you could do. Because like as soon as you get the game, you don't have a weapon, but there's a little cave right there at the top of the screen where you just don't go anywhere else. Just go to that cave so you can get a sword, the simple sword, so you can actually do attacks, right? Mm-hmm. The game, I think the simplicity of that, like I know when I first played, I did play this. I didn't play this exactly when it first came out, but I did play it a little bit later in life, and I just never went to the cave. I sort of went straight to the forest, tried to go to the forest and had no weapon.
You're going to have a bad time then.
Yeah, well, I did have a bad time, and I said, this game sucks. I don't want to play that.
I mean,
that was the first time I ever played this game.
You can technically beat the game. You can at least get to Ganon without the sword.
Yes, you can get to Ganon, but... Well, you can get the Ganon without the sword, but you won't be able to... you can get to the dungeon without the sword.
No,
you won't be able to progress.
You can get in.
You can... No, you can get to the dungeon, but it won't let you proceed without the Triforce.
You can get the Triforce. You can kill every enemy you can kill every boss without the sword. But Ganon,
well, no, you can kill every boss, but just like Breath of the Wild, you can get to Breath of the Wild, you can get to Ganon himself, but you can't get to Ganon himself in Zelda 1. You can get to the dungeon where Ganon is.
You can get to Ganon. You can get to Ganon.
No, I saw a walkthrough and it said you can't progress that person unless you have the rest of the Triforce.
You can get the Triforce though, because you can beat the bosses. As long as you beat the bosses, you'll get the pieces. But you can't stab.
No, I'm not saying about beating the bosses. You can actually get to the dungeon without doing anything else. As long as you have a bomb, you can get to that dungeon.
You can get inside. Sure. Yeah.
Yes, you can get inside, but they won't let you progress without the rest of the Triforce
so you have
pieces.
To do all the other stuff. Yeah, which is interesting because you could come across it on your own, and like, oh, what's this? And then like, oh, holy shoot, it's the end of the game, but you can't get in.
You get to upgrade your sword, right, throughout the game, and you get various weapons, which for an early NES game, I thought was fantastic, right? You get bombs, arrows, a boomerang. You definitely going to need the bombs because you need the bombs to find certain hidden areas and hidden shops.
Yep.
Boomerang, I think, is the coolest and the most useless weapon you can have because it can only kill like low level enemies.
Yeah, well, I mean, it stuns other enemies,
so cool.
which is good, but
I mean, I think it's cool. I just think it's the most useless weapon you can have.
Yeah,
and you definitely need a boomer. You definitely need a bow and arrow and get the silver arrows if you want to actually beat Ganon because you need to have the silver arrow.
Yep.
Just for context, I didn't actually beat it, but I did. I'm in Ganon's dungeon. So I put about
Did you find the silver
4.5 hours? Yes, I found the silver arrows.
Okay, because those are definitely hard to find.
So I have that. I do have that because you need to find that in Ganon's dungeon too.
Yeah.
Funny enough. So I think this is cool, and I think one of the coolest parts about this game, for NES game too, by the way. I mean, I'm playing it in 2020, so I'm sort of impressed playing a game that's over 30 years old, where like certain areas are all dark, and you can still, if you know what you're doing, you can get through the area and beat the bad guys, but it's all dark and you need the candle to light it up. Right? It lights up only one scene. So I was thoroughly impressed with that for the time. I know if maybe this game came out in 87, I would have only been 5. Yeah. So let's say I would have played it in 89. The 7-year-old me would have been like super like mind blowing, like, oh my god, I need the candle to light up the room, to light up the scenes so I can see what I'm doing.
Yeah. So, it's insane, man. Like when this game came out at the time, one thing that was super cool about it, and Miyamoto has said in interviews like later on, and I suspected this was the case, but it was more of a feeling about it, that he designed the game to be like a community, right? To where, like, okay, you got a copy of the game and I got a copy of the game, and Steve's got a copy of the game and Joe's got a copy of the game, and then obviously we're going to be playing our own adventures, and then we kind of talk about it and we all come together and we go, did you see this thing? And I found where level 2 is and whatever. And you would share the secrets of the game and the things that you found, because there was no internet back in the day, right? So you would share all these secrets.
The internet was the playground. The playground. Or lunchtime.
Right. And the kind of game was designed around that, right? Was to share your secrets and stories with your friends, and like, oh my god, like, so I thought that was super cool. And you don't really get that now. It's different, because like, if you haven't played it yet, I mean, it's there, and there's you can play the super beefed up version. You can just go to the internet and figure out like where to go. There's millions of walkthroughs, but back in the day that wasn't there.
I definitely, a part of me playing the game now definitely wishes I would have had this game growing up. Mm-hmm. I'm not gonna lie. I really want to feel nostalgic for it.
Right.
And again, I'm thoroughly impressed with the amount of different weapons you can have, and only 2 buttons on the NES controller, and you definitely have to go and use manage your items. You have to go back and manage your items.
Right. Yeah, they made it work.
In all fairness, I tried to play it sort of like the original, but I have the NES Joy-Cons for the Switch. So that's how I played it with the original, with the sort of the NES Joy-Cons with the 2 buttons. So I had to manage my inventory just having 2 buttons. I don't know if you can use more than 2 buttons or if you use the regular Joy-Cons, but I try to play it
as true to the original.
I try to play it as close. I try to as true to the original as I possibly can play. Mm-hmm. So the story, this iconic Zelda story, I thought was sort of unique and creative for the time, right? Because it's not just the princess is missing and you got to rescue her. It's, yes, you have to rescue the princess. However, the Triforce, which still makes no sense, kinda, but does make sense because it's Triforce. You think of 3 pieces, but this was broken up into like 7, 8 different pieces.
Oh, so
which is kind of weird.
I can answer that question for you. So, if you notice, before you start the game, and it kind of runs through the title screen, and it's got the little explanation, they say it's the Triforce number, like piece number 1. And if you play the spoilers, there's a second quest. If you play the second quest, I don't know if you got to the second quest, that's the Triforce part 2. So you're building the second piece of it. And then if you play Zelda 2, that has the third piece of the Triforce. You're building, well, you're not building the Triforce. You're beating temples and getting gems. I don't know. It's weird. But there is a third Triforce that they mention in there. So over the course of 2 games, you build the iconic Triforce. So.
See, that's the weird part. Why can't they do it in the third game?
Yeah, well.
3 games.
Yeah, like the third game has all 3. So, yeah.
So, but that was the part that I thought.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
that was the part that I sort of thought was interesting because it wasn't just rescuing the princess because that was an 80s and 90s thing. You have to rescue the damsel in distress,
Right.
but
Right.
which is sort of old now, and I'm glad they sort of are sort of gotten away from that a little bit. Well, they gotten away from that with Zelda, not so much Mario.
Yeah.
But they made it. They went sort of made it a little bit deeper where it's not just the princess, but you have to get you have to put the Triforce back together, right? And each piece of the Triforce represents something, right? Courage, wisdom, sleepy, droopy, all the dwarves, same thing, right? Same concept, yeah.
I don't think I ever got the sleepy piece of the Triforce, but
you did. It was Dungeon 3. You don't remember? It was Dungeon 3.
Right.
It was the boring. It was the boring dungeon. It was the boring.
Beat the little
dungeon.
manhandler, and then you get the the sleepy piece. Yeah. Okay. I think you may have been playing a different game, Dan.
You got the sleepy Triforce. Okay. You got the bashful Triforce. You got the aggressive Triforce.
Oh my God.
There you go. It's all different Triforces. Okay. You got the meta Triforce. All different Triforces, just like the dwarves. Okay. So, I thought I'm playing the Zelda games backwards, right? Sort of, because like the first Zelda game I really got in depth with Breath of the Wild. The first Zelda game I ever beat and I love is Link's Awakening the remake, and then Link's Awakening and then Link's Awakening the remake, and now I'm playing the original Zelda. So this whole now I understand where this top down view came from and where it originated from, right? And all the ideas, I see all the ideas that they put into it that they sort of redefined and made better and the sequels. So I think it's totally, the graphics are okay. Again, I played it on Nintendo Online, but the sound, I can listen to the 5 tracks that this game has over and over again. The soundtrack.
Yeah, there's not many.
It's super iconic.
There's the overworld, the dungeon, and Ganon's music, and that's about it. Like the final dungeon music.
I didn't get annoyed or tired of hearing the loop over and over again at all. Right, like, and maybe it's a little nostalgic. Maybe it's nostalgic from a standpoint like I hear the new sound, the new music, right? That's in Breath of the Wild and all the other games, and to hear the simplified version of this, where it came from, where it started, like it sort of resonates with me. But I can see anybody at that time loving this music, right? Because it's something different that I think the sound overall stands the test of time more than the game itself, to be honest.
Yeah.
So I love the iconic music loop.
It's amazing. Yeah. So you didn't get bored or kind of the kind of dungeon music didn't wear on you? Because that's got a very small loop that kind of goes around.
Not at all. Not at all. I didn't. So does this game hold up today?
Well, that's the question. That's the question.
I'm going to say not really.
Ooh. Well, here's the controversy.
Really.
Here's the controversy that you were talking about. Explain yourself, Dan.
Yeah. Look, the thing that I was most excited about playing this game was playing the original game, which started it all. Right? Like that's what most excited me about wanting to play this game. The part that I like the least is the part that makes it not stand the test of time, in my view, the original game, and that is the difficulty. Okay, like you have this piss poor sword in the beginning of the game, and they have like 1,000 enemies. Wood.
I mean,
I know, and then you have like 1,000 enemies on screen at once. I am exaggerating, but you have like 4 or 5 enemies all attacking you at once at the beginning of the game. It doesn't make me want to explore the world where if you go left, right, or up, when you first begin the game, it's like super hard because there's so many different enemies, especially when you get to the desert where they just spawn right in front of you. So you automatically, that's an automatic hit.
It's consistent.
Right? It's not even
consistent. You got to wait until they pop up and then you hit them with the sword.
Yeah, it's crazy. And then the bad translation makes the puzzle elements hard to figure out.
That I will 100% agree with you. Like I could beat that game blindfolded because I just know where everything is. So but going into it fresh, more or less, like you did, yeah,
Like me.
I could see that being difficult. You know,
Who the
And they say,
hell
like-
knew I needed the flute to open up the Dungeon 7? Like,
Right.
that doesn't make
right?
it. That clue, I'm sorry, that clue, or what's supposedly supposed to be a clue, was not a clue at all. I had no
Right.
idea what the hell was going on.
Right. Yeah. There's
So
there's a lot of terrible translation in there.
You need, in 2020, and I'm sure back in 1987, you need a map and you need a guide. I'm
Well,
sorry.
it came with a map. It did. The original came with a map.
The map it came with, when this goes live, I think on the last Saturday of September, I'm gonna post
tomorrow.
a picture of everything I have for the Legend of Zelda. Okay, and I have both Zelda carts, the gold and gray. I have the box for the classic, the gray cart. I have the map, I have the manual, and I have the original Nintendo Fun Club issue 3, I believe, that had the Legend of Zelda map in it too as well. The map that came with the game was limited. Okay, it was limited. It didn't give you everything you needed. The map for Nintendo Fun Club actually told you where all the dungeons were. Okay,
Sure.
where the map that came with it was limited. It didn't tell you where all the dungeons were. So the map didn't help me at all in the slightest.
Well,
So
the
I
thing that it
definitely
came
needed
with
the
was
map.
it was like a starter, right? It was like
a beginning,
all right, here's some
map.
stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. Here's some stuff.
I really needed the map that came with Nintendo Fun Club, the
Right.
magazine before
Right.
Nintendo Power.
See, I guess
was a big help to me.
I guess the thing that okay, so I 100% see what you're saying because the English is terrible and it's very obtuse. It's a lot better in the Japanese version because everything makes sense. But the whole like community thing wasn't there for you, right? You didn't have all your friends playing the game at the same time. That's the thing I think that is missing out of that because I didn't know I had to hit the dark nuts in the back. My friends told me that. They're like, you gotta hit him from behind. I'm like, oh, that makes level 3 a lot easier, right? And subsequently level 5 as well, because you get the blue dark nuts in there. So, like, you miss out on all that. So I get it. Yeah, I get it. You kind of do. You kind of need a strategy guide with it. Yeah.
And then come on, I mean, really, you how in the hell am I supposed to know? Like, you're walking up, trying to get to level 5, and you're just trying to walk into the mountains and walking up and up, and you're endlessly walking. How the hell am I supposed to know the pattern to get up there? Or you want to get to the cemetery and you're walking through the forest, and you're getting through the forest. She doesn't really tell me. She does the clue.
She says
doesn't
keep
make
going up,
sense.
up.
The clue doesn't make sense. Not to mention trying to get through the forest. How you get into the cemetery trying to get through the forest doesn't
North,
make any
south,
sense.
northwest. Yeah, that's the trick.
Well, look,
That's the trick.
all of those. With that said, all of those from the original game, seeing how they implement it in sort of like a Link's Awakening, the remake, which I think is like a better version of what they wanted to do for the original game.
Okay.
Like, I see what they want to do, but this is done better.
Okay.
This game, the original Legend of Zelda, which I know a lot of older people hold dear in their heart.
Oh, it's one of my favorite.
If I had to rate it, and I know it. I know a lot of people. I hear a lot of people give it a 10. You give it a 9.5. I would have to give it a solid 8 in 2020.
Okay. I respect that. I think everything you said makes sense, and I agree with all of it. I would say a 9, maybe not a 10. I think it just suffers from poor translation. If it had better translation, I think that would make it a 10.
A game that you need a guide to make it through has to be knocked a point. If the translations were done better and it was sort of like, it was very clear what I had to do to traverse the land to get to progress, and I didn't really need a guide,
right?
Then I would give it a solid 9.
Yeah. Okay.
And would stop it from the difficulty stops it from being a 10. I can't give it a 10 because of the difficulty alone.
Oh, well. All right.
So, Dave,
There you go.
tell me about Kid Icarus for the original NES.
So I picked this one partially because you picked The Legend of Zelda. And these games came out very close to each other. Zelda came out slightly after Kid Icarus. This was July 1st, 1987. And interestingly enough, it did launch in Europe. Obviously, it started in Japan, so we had all three major territories. It launched in Europe before it launched in America, which is very interesting because that typically doesn't happen. It's usually Japan, U.S., and then Europe gets it last. This is a in-house game developed by Nintendo, published by Nintendo, released on NES and the Famicom. I believe it also had a battery backup system. Because I think Zelda came out first, and then Kid Icarus came out in Japan.
No, it had a password. It had password system.
The Japanese one had a password system. Okay, so the American one also had a password system.
Correct. It was right there, prevalent on the upper left-hand side of the gray box.
Right. It said little, password pack. Yeah.
Yes.
So this is action
which was. Well, it was interesting for the time because it's like you could share with your friends, like, "Hey, I got the password." Like, listen, I made it to level 4. Mm-hmm. Like, if you want to go to level 4, I give you the password. Right?
Yeah,
That was the playground stuff. Yeah, I remember this growing up with Kid Icarus. I remember that.
Mm-hmm. Right. It's and password is important not just for the level progression, but so it's an action adventure game with some RPG elements. So you can kind of grow your character and get different items, and you can kind of build him up, and then the password is the way to like save that progression. So I played this on the NES Classic with a Super Nintendo controller because I'm not a masochist. I gave myself that one consideration. I didn't use any of the save states or anything. I played it as it was, straight up. So if you die, you go back to the beginning of that level. So I wasn't doing any cheats or anything.
You're a glutton for punishment, huh?
Well, it's a tough game, man. You talk about Zelda being tough. Kid Icarus is also tough. But a little bit of backstory on the game that I picked. So it came out the same year as Metroid, from the same producer, Gunpei Yokoi, the creator of the Game Boy, and also the Virtual Boy.
Rest in peace.
Yeah, rest in peace, Gunpei.
Rest in peace.
Created by Nintendo R&D 1 in coordination with Tosei. They were a somewhat prominent Japanese developer for like Nintendo and Game Boy. They made 2 sequels. There was Kid Icarus on the Game Boy, I think Monsters and Men maybe, and Kid Icarus Uprising was the latest one to come out on the 3DS in 2011. And Pit, the main protagonist, has been featured as a playable character in Super Smash Brothers, and is still there today. So that is kind of where the series sits. As far as the gameplay goes, it's a bit of action. It's got some RPG elements. You can kind of build your character up and get more hit points. And there's some maze traversal, right? So it's a little bit like Zelda. So at the end of every area, right, there's like 3 stages and like a boss level. The boss level is like a side-scrolling maze. So it's kind of like a side-scrolling version of the Zelda dungeon. You have to figure out where the boss is, and you kind of move around.
Well, it was like Zelda in the sense that it had sort of like a dungeon, but it was like kind of like Metroid, right? Because it wasn't just side-scrolling, left and right. You can go up, right? Yeah. That was another thing that it did.
Yeah, and so, it got like well, go ahead.
Well, one of the things I didn't like is you couldn't backtrack, so you couldn't go back down. If you go up, that's it. Just like Super Mario Brothers 1, there was no backtracking.
Oh, when you're playing the levels themselves, yeah, it ratchet scrolls forward. Yeah, it's just like Mario Brothers, and some of the boss levels are like that. You go through certain doors and they lock you out, and it's like, oh boy. So that's where I think kind of the difficulty comes in. It is definitely a little bit brutal. You kind of have to learn. It's trial by fire. You're like, okay, don't do that. Don't go that way. But yeah, it's a pretty simple game, right? If you want to talk about story, this is a save the princess game, right? It is a game that is, I guess, coated in Greek mythology, right? You play as Icarus, or the kid version of Icarus in this case, where he got wings of wax and then flew too close to the sun. Icarus wins in this case. He defeats Medusa. His wings do not melt, and he saves the princess. So it's a very simple concept, but I think it works. It gets the point across. It gets you on the adventure. In terms of the graphics, I think they kind of hold up. It's very similar to Metroid. In terms of the, like, not the style of the graphics, just in how it's like set up. Right, I'm pretty sure they use the same engine, right? Because it goes vertical and it also goes horizontal, and then you get the big dungeon levels, which are they go all over the place. So that's kind of neat. They have there's kind of multi-headed demons, the aforementioned Medusa's in there, and it's got some other mythological creatures. It's got the Grim Reaper in there. So
I hated the Grim Reaper. That was the worst character in the game.
The Grim Reaper
would like summon its minions.
Mm-hmm.
It was just annoying.
I think the Grim Reaper is a woman, and those are her kids. I don't know.
Even worse.
Yeah, I don't know. But I've always suspected, because there's these little Grim Reapers that come out, and I'm like, oh, they have to be her kids, and they just kind of like float down. So I don't know. But the music, very much like Zelda, iconic. All right, if I can also use that word. Famous composer Hip Tanaka, who also did the Metroid music, as well as some other big name games for Nintendo. He is amazing. It just has a good hook. It gets you right in. There's not a lot of tracks, right? Maybe like 6 or 7 overall, or 8 maybe at most. But
there weren't many tracks back in those days, right?
They just didn't have a lot of room. But I mean, it works. What they had was fantastic. So, and I guess. Well, go ahead.
Well, no, I agree with the music. It may not be as iconic as Mario or Zelda. Definitely, I would say NES games, top 10.
Oh yeah. I think it definitely. I think it definitely holds up to this day. Now, what doesn't hold up is the controls. Yeah, it's a little bit tough. There's a lot of tight platforming. And, like you said before, you can't go backwards, right, when you play the regular stages. So if you're doing the vertical stages, which most of them are, if you fall, you're probably going to die. Because there's just everything like below just isn't there anymore. So that makes it a little bit tough.
Well, the frustrating part was, where mainly in this game where you want to duck, right? Mm-hmm. But ducking is down. But when you get to one of those platforms where you're standing on, and it's sort of like a single platform, and you hit down and you go through the platform. And I think the level design from that aspect was just brutal, because you get to somewhere where it's like 1,000 of floating heads coming at you, and it's a single platform. You try to duck, but you forgot you're on a single platform, and you go through the floor, and guess what? You can't backtrack, so you're not going down to the platform you just jumped from. You're just going to die.
It is a trial by fire. Yeah, you learn what you can and can't go through. So yeah, I mean, I think we're definitely pretty simpatico on all that. Again, much like Zelda, I have nostalgia for this because I played it back in the day. I love this game. Every time I was sick and stayed home from school, I would fire up Kid Icarus and play Kid Icarus. Still to this day, sometimes when I'm sick, I'll fire up Kid Icarus. And if I have to give this game a rating, and I do, because that's the end of this segment, I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. All right.
Oh, wow.
I'm gonna give it an 8.5 out of 10. I do love this game, but it is brutally difficult. It is a little bit weird, like some of the stuff you don't know what certain items do. Like there's legit a credit card in the game. What is it? I don't know. It may be in the instruction book. There is
Wait, there's a credit card in the game? In 1987, they had a credit card in the game?
They had a credit card in the game, and you basically buy things on credit, and then all the hearts that you get, which is your currency, you just basically pay it back until you get back to zero. So you can
this is R&D for... This is R&D for microtransactions.
Oh my God! Right? Yeah. they were trying some stuff out early, so it's the only anachronistic thing in the game. Everything else is pretty much like straight on. But like, yeah, who knows what a credit card does? Who knows what the barrel does in the game? Yeah, you just kind of have to learn.
I gotta say, I like this game. I like Kid Icarus. It is tough. I did beat it because I played it on Nintendo Online with a Nintendo Online Plus, but they gave me up to the Medusa head, right? So I had all the powers already.
Oh yeah.
It's only 13 levels, but the levels it may be short in levels, but the levels are extremely long. So what it didn't make up for in levels, it made up for in how long the levels lasted. So
yeah,
8.5 is a good score for any early on NES game.
Right.
So I could definitely get down with that.
Yeah, right. Well, all right. That about does it, folks. That is episode 5 of Saturday Morning Retro in the books. Before we get out of here, little PSA. For those of you living in the United States, for those of you listening to our podcast who are in the States, or possibly who are visiting and can vote, get out there November 3rd. Get out there and vote. We don't want to get political on this. We don't want to say who to vote for, but we do want to say exercise your right. Get out there and vote. If you're not sure if you're registered to vote, or you haven't registered yet, you can do that. You can go online. I think you can go to vote.org and figure that out. And you can find out how to do that. Do that now, because very, very important. And with that out of the way, we want to thank all of our wonderful fans who have supported us. And if you want to interact with us, and we know that you do, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube at Rated G for Gamers. Also, we are part of the Gaming Podcast Alliance. Check out all of the fine podcasts featured on there if you're looking for more gaming goodness at gamingpodcastalliance.com. So, please listen, like, rate, review, and subscribe. And as always,
keep gaming.